Okay, so you're interested in the future of Bitcoin.
Right.
And more specifically,
Yeah.
whether governments might actually step in and try to shut it down completely.
Yeah.
It's a question we get a lot,
Sure.
especially with CBDCs,
Right.
central bank digital currencies,
Exactly.
starting to make more and more headlines these days.
Right.
So today on the show, we're going to do a deep dive into why that kind of a ban is probably less likely than you might think.
Okay.
And maybe more importantly, what this whole kind of tug of war between Bitcoin and governments means for your financial future.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really interesting dynamic that's going on because on the one hand, you have governments that are
Right.
naturally wary of anything that's going to challenge their control over currency.
Of course, yeah.
But then on the other hand, they're clearly intrigued by blockchain
Yeah.
and by Bitcoin.
Right.
So
Bitcoin
it's like, are they a threat or an opportunity?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to figure out if this is the thing that's going to take them down or is this the thing that they can use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the best illustration of this is if you go back in time and you look at the story of the Winklevoss twins.
Oh, yeah.
Remember them?
The
From Facebook.
Yeah, the Olympic rowers who sued Mark Zuckerberg.
That's right. Those guys.
Okay.
Way back in 2014, they were trying to launch a Bitcoin ETF,
Okay.
which is an exchange-traded fund.
Right.
And basically what that would have done is made it much easier for the everyday investor to buy into Bitcoin.
Oh, okay. So like if that would have gone through,
Uh-huh.
I mean, are we talking like the government would just handed them the keys to the kingdom?
No, but it would have been a lot easier for
Right.
people to get involved. And what happened was the regulators stepped in
Okay.
and they blocked it.
Right.
And they said, it's too risky. It's too volatile for your average investor.
Oh, interesting.
And so the irony, of course, is that if you look at it since that time, Bitcoin has returned on average 117% every year
Wow.
since then.
That is a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Like imagine if they'd taken that Facebook settlement money and just
Oh, yeah.
poured it all into Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
Wow.
But it highlights perfectly this awkward kind of dance that's going on between Bitcoin and governments.
Yeah.
They're hesitant to embrace it, but they're also afraid to let it go completely.
Right, because if they shut it down entirely, then they miss out on all that potential tax revenue.
That's right.
That's just
Yeah.
ripe for the picking.
And think about all the data
Oh, yeah.
that exchanges collect.
Right.
They have to because of know your customer and all that.
They've got their fingers on the pulse.
They know where the money's going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, true.
it's not just an inconvenience to try and shut it down. It may actually be detrimental to them at this point
Wow.
to shut it down.
Okay.
Because they're going to lose access to valuable data.
Yeah.
They're going to lose potential revenue streams.
Right.
And they could even lose a technological advantage.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like banning Bitcoin would be kind of like shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
So what's the alternative? I mean, are governments just going to sit back and watch as this decentralized system potentially like reshapes the entire financial landscape?
Well, I think it's less about sitting back and more about strategizing.
Okay.
Because you have to remember, countries are constantly in competition with each other,
Right.
not just economically, but technologically as well.
Okay.
So if one country figures out a way to really leverage Bitcoin's potential,
Uh-huh.
the others are going to be quick to follow.
So it becomes almost like a technological arms race in a way.
In a way,
Yeah.
yeah. And you see this already happening with Bitcoin mining.
Okay.
When China cracked down on it a few years ago,
Yeah.
all those mining operations,
Yeah.
they just upped and moved.
Right to where the energy was cheaper.
Exactly, to countries with more favorable regulations,
Yeah.
cheaper electricity.
Like-
And suddenly, those countries are looking a lot more attractive
All right.
to investors and entrepreneurs in the crypto space.
Absolutely.
And it's not just mining.
Yeah.
You see governments exploring blockchain for all sorts of things.
Like what?
Supply chain management,
Oh, interesting.
digital identity,
Wow.
even voting systems.
Really?
So the point is,
Okay.
they're not so much trying to eliminate Bitcoin
Yeah.
as they are trying to figure out how to adapt to it.
Right. So it's more about integration than it is about
I think so.
elimination.
Yeah.
Okay. And that kind of leads into this whole other topic of conversation around CBDCs,
Right.
central bank digital currencies,
Yeah.
which we've talked about a little bit on the show before.
Sure.
And, some people think that CBDCs are going to be the thing that crushes Bitcoin,
Right.
but it sounds like you're saying that it's not quite that simple.
Not that simple at all. In
Great.
fact, some of the rules that are being written right now for CBDCs
Yeah.
actually include ways to back these digital currencies with...
Bitcoin.
Wait, really? So you're telling me that the very thing that's supposed to kill Bitcoin could actually end up supporting it?
I think it's less about killing or supporting
Okay.
and more about adaptation,
Okay.
about staying ahead of the curve.
Right.
Because the countries that figure out how to integrate it,
Yeah.
even if it's just as a reserve asset
Uh-huh.
for their digital currency,
Right.
they could have a serious advantage.
Like what kind of advantage are we talking about here?
We'll think about it stronger,
Okay.
more stable currencies,
Right.
potentially faster,
Okay.
and cheaper cross-border transactions.
Very interesting.
Maybe even a more transparent
Well,
and secure financial system.
that's a lot to wrap our heads around. So we've gone from governments potentially like outlawing Bitcoin
Right.
to potentially using it to back their own digital currencies.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like something straight out of like a spy thriller or something.
It's pretty wild.
So like, what does all this mean for the average person who's just trying to like, right.
Wrap their head around, their own financial future.
Yeah, well, I think this is a perfect example of how we're in this period of massive shift
Okay.
in terms of how we think about and interact with money.
Sure.
The rules are literally being rewritten in real time.
And it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like,
It's a lot.
how do you even keep up?
Yeah, and that's why it's more important than ever
Oh,
to not just bury your head in the sand.
right.
Like, stay informed, stay proactive.
So it's not just about Bitcoin
No,
or CBDCs even.
it's about this fundamental shift
Okay.
in how finance works
Got it.
and finding your place in that new system.
So instead of worrying about whether Bitcoin's going to get banned
Right.
or trying to pick like the winner in some cryptocurrency horse race, we should really be focused
The
on,
bigger picture,
yeah.
the underlying trends here.
Okay, so like how do we even begin to do that?
Well, I think step one is education,
Okay.
right? Learn about the tech, learn about the different arguments. The more you know,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be to actually make smart choices for yourself,
Knowledge is power, right?
especially in times of change.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Good.
It feels like we're on the edge of something totally new.
We are.
And anytime you have that, you have a certain amount of uncertainty,
Of course.
but also it seems like a lot of opportunity.
I think that's a great way to look at it. This is not a time to be afraid.
Right.
This is a time to be curious,
I like that.
to engage.
So like what's one thing that our listeners can do today?
Just start exploring.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to ask questions because the future of finance is literally being written right now.
Wow.
And you have a chance to be a part of it.
So if you're out there listening to this and you're feeling a little overwhelmed,
Yeah.
just know you're not alone.
We're all figuring this out together.
The important thing is to, educate ourselves.
Stay curious.
Stay curious.
Stay informed.
And remember that the future of money is up to all of us.
That's right.
Awesome.
Ah,
Well, hey, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
my pleasure.
We'll see you next time.